Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. We took a week off, so that was very relaxing, and I'm back and refreshed and have new, really fun and innovative and informative um, programs coming up, including today. So today I wanted to talk about utilizing Twitter ads. And I've been putting Twitter ads in the mix for my clients for the past couple of years. And I wanted to go over some of the reasons why I'm doing that and some of the reasons why you as a small business owner or as a marketer yourself may want to utilize Twitter advertising. So I'm going to go over some of the information that's provided by Twitter. There's a couple of really good morning, Suzanne. There's a couple of very good articles that I'm going to share as well. But the first thing that I'm going to do is a little bit of admin. So I'm going to talk about where I am and what Digital Media Sync is and what's coming up for the rest of the Known Live programming. So I am actually at Known Coworking and I'm working with Known Coworking. Good morning, Rebecca. It's so good to see everybody here today. I'm super excited. Known Coworking is actually located at 139 Orange Street. It's in the Palladium building. It is 2 floors of space, including office space. And if you go to nhbknown.com, you can look at some of the options that are available. So there's daily options, monthly plans. So take a look at that. We also have Known Live. So Known Live is actually 3 silos of programs. So we had a wonderful pivot talk yesterday that you really should take a look at if you haven't. We had a wellness panel, which was the first time that Bob Bishop, who co-runs the Pivot Talk with Juan and with Rick from Creative, and they talked to 3 women entrepreneurs, and it was just, especially for me, I have to say, it was just very inspiring. So take a look at that. There is another Pivot Talk coming up next week with the restaurant owner of Almost. You want to take a look at that as well. So that's Pivot Talk, and Pivot Talk really came out of the fact that Known had to pivot itself from being mostly in person, mostly networking in person. A lot of co-working has to do with being able to collaborate, to communicate, and to have that in-person interaction. Known actually took all of that collaboration piece and brought it online into the Known Live kind of venue. So, and that's where I also come in with Digital Media Sync, because with Digital Media Sync, same thing. It was mostly in person. There was a lot of interaction. So when I'm on live streaming, I'm actually, asking for some interaction as well. I'll ask you to ask me questions and to make suggestions as well. So you can just go ahead in the comment section, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn. LinkedIn is coming up as well, and ask those questions. And then there's Known Live, which is Barb Ningle just really interviewing artists and musicians and entrepreneurs and writers, just really, really innovative, inspirational people, and basically drawing out their stories as well. So Digital Media Sync is really, again, we've been doing Digital Media Sync. I've been doing Digital Media Sync for about 10 years. And so, but this is the first time I've been live streaming, and I've been live streaming for about 3 months now. So there's a whole library now that's on the nhbknown.com site, and I'm going to be adding some premium materials to that as well. So for $9 a month, you can go to the website and you can pick up all sorts of digital media sync material. You can come in and have kind of like a virtual office or virtual meetings, that sort of thing. So that's going to be coming up really soon. I know, 10 years. 10 years. We started in, I think, yeah, well, it was definitely 2010. And it was in another location on Orange Street called the Grove. And we actually have photos of that. And maybe sometime I'll throw those photos up on the Digital Media Sync Facebook page and group. And there was a lot of people that I met. It was called Social Media Sync. There was a lot of people I met through that. Okay, so that's all done. And we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. So I had mentioned before, I had been using Twitter advertising with many of my clients as part of the campaign mix. And there's lots of reasons why I do that, and that will be in the presentation that I pull up. If you have any questions while I am speaking about this, just drop them in the comment section. I'll be taking a look at the comment section while I'm presenting. And again, I really love it more as a conversation than me just talking all the time. So that's like the one thing that definitely is quite different from what I'm used to. You know, I'm used to presenting, but I'm used to actually seeing. I'm getting visual cues and getting questions. So sometimes it feels a little weird to not have anybody there. But look, I am still there. Okay, cool. So here it is, how to use Twitter ads to generate leads. And I've really been using this, have been using this specifically to generate leads. So I've been working with a financial consultant doing this. I have been utilizing this Twitter advertising with authors. I've been utilizing this for nonprofits, and I've been utilizing this for other, you know, peer agencies and that sort of thing as well. So a little bit about Twitter, and I don't know if you know, but I know. So Twitter is still a pretty strong platform for business. People spend 26% more time viewing ads on Twitter than on any other leading platforms. And that was a really surprising statistic that I saw. I knew that anecdotally it worked for me, but I was not aware of the statistics. So, you know, and that's really, really helpful. I think also YouTube is up there as well. And the interesting thing about both Twitter and YouTube is that they're relatively inexpensive. Even though in the Google AdWord universe, a lot of the bidding is keyword bidding, and it's also auction bidding, which means that you're bidding against other organizations that are within your silo. So it seems that the bidding is always going to go up and up and up, but there's actually ways to get around that as well. And I was just, when I was onboarding a new client, I was talking about that. You know, a lot of people don't use the full breadth of each platform to their advantage, and they just really focus on the pay-per-click and really focus on the auction and really focus on spending more and more of your money, which is not what I'm about, that's for sure. So there's that aspect. So the next slide tells us that according to Twitter's Q3 2019 report, users are increasingly engaging with ads, but the cost per engagement is down 12%. So that's what I was just saying. That the viewership is up, the cost is down. The cost went up a little bit during the COVID time period. So I've been watching that as well. whereas I had ads that were about 19 or 20 or 14 cents per click. They went up to a little bit over $1 and then dropped back down to around the 40-cent mark per click, which one of the formulas that I do talk about when I'm doing my seminars or webinars is the $5 per day advertising campaign model. So that's a model that I use for small businesses. It works. It works if you have a very small campaign between $5 and $10. Sometimes I'll do $7 or $8 per day. But when people are telling me I don't have a lot of money, but I still want to get myself out there for awareness, to sell my products, I said, okay, well, let's start with this and then the $5 a day and then work our way up. So that's actually something that I'm going to talk about probably a few weeks from now. I'm going to have some guests in the next couple of weeks, which I'm super excited about. I love having guests on Digital Media Sync because I can actually interact back and forth with somebody. And as you can see, interaction is like super important to me. Okay, so Twitter is a strong platform for small business. So there are many ultra simple Twitter ad formats, and there's no minimum advertising budget. So that's what I was talking about. I like to be kind of like in the $5 range, the $10 range per day. So if you're saying, okay, I can put $150, $200, $300 towards a campaign during a month, we can do that. And then we can take a look at that after 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, and see if that platform actually works. Right now, I am talking about Twitter and specifically about the platform and how it can be used for generating leads. But I'm agnostic when it comes to platforms. I have to be agnostic when it comes to platforms because I have to give you the best advice about how advertising is going to work for your business. So Twitter ad formats are basically pretty simple, just like every other platform. Twitter basically, good morning, Zeph. Twitter basically walks you through, okay, very first thing, first give us your credit card number. We want your credit card number, so let's start there. And then they go into targeting your audience and then into the ad platforms. So the first thing that Twitter asks you basically is, what do you want to do? How, who do you want to reach? How do you want to reach them? And then the ad format is very, very simple. One of the first things that you do want to do, however, the thing that's a little bit tricky is you want to have your creative set up already. So when you go into Twitter advertising, there's a spot that says creative, and then there's a spot that says cards. Cards are basically your visuals. You want to have your visuals set up already so you can pull those cards into your advertising. Otherwise, it feels like you're backing out of advertising and then going back in. That's really the only tricky thing about the Twitter advertising. The other thing too is they're very good about making sure that you stick to very short, pithy headlines, a quick description, and then making sure that you have the landing page set up as well for where you're going to. And it's interesting because I'm thinking ahead to my other slides and I'm going ahead of myself with the slides, but I really wanted to give a very descriptive and concise way of describing the process. Oh, we have a question. Hold on. I love this. All right. So is Twitter better for any particular type of markets compared to Facebook? So Okay, so overall, um, Twitter is as good, if not sometimes better for business than LinkedIn. And specifically for small business, and also specifically for kind of solopreneurs or niche type of markets, right? So earlier in the program, I had talked about how it really works for people who are like financial advisors or authors or certain types of silos or that are affiliated with actually what's going on Twitter. So Twitter is really being used by consumers um, in an interesting way. It was said that when 46% of the people who are on Twitter to get their news. So they are taking little quick snippets of news and headlines and then diving deeper into that particular platform. So they're going to the the CNN or the Fox News or the Wall Street Journal Twitter accounts, and they're grabbing their news from there. The other thing too is larger organizations. So you'll see like a Home Depot or a T-Mobile having a Twitter help. So there's T-Mobile support as opposed to the T-Mobile regular account that's specifically there to grab any kind of complaints or feedback from consumers. So even if people are on Facebook, they will go to Twitter for very specific things. What does that have to do with advertising? Because people will scroll through for news, they will scroll through for sports, they will scroll through to talk about their favorite TV shows. So a campaign that I had done recently was based on the fact that people were watching a particular television show, and there were products that could be aligned with that television show. And there's actually a way to target your audience based on TV shows. It's crazy. I've never seen that before on any other platform. You can do that in Google, but you basically have to type it in. Wellness and fitness is another area as well. So anything that aligns with an influencer. So that's another particular type of market that would, compare as well. So if you're following a particular influencer on Twitter, which yes, can be compared to if you were following a particular influencer, say on Instagram or on TikTok. But Twitter seems to really be the place where people congregate and talk, and also where influencers and basically anybody is really accessible. So that's something to think about. And thanks for the question. Okay, so ultra simple Twitter ad formats and no minimum advertising budget. So that's really huge for small businesses. And that's why I tend to use it a lot for my small business clients. One of the big things, and this is across any platform, and I know I really, really hammer this, and I'm not sorry. Know what you need to know. So who is your audience, right? Where do you want them to go? What do you want them to do when they get there? And I'm going to talk about this later on as well. And how can you re-engage with them? And that is really so important. One of the things about any platform is recapturing the interest of those who did not download the white paper, who did not buy the product, who did not perform the action that you wanted them to perform. So you want to have not only a plan to capture them, and you not only want to have a strong landing page with a very precise call to action that is easily doable, but you want to be able to engage them as well. People are very distracted. Even, especially now, people are very distracted. And they're online for a long period of time. They're trying to do what they're doing. I get distracted by just, squirrel. People are distracted by their kids or taking a phone call or whatever it is. So you want to be able to re-engage with those people at the time when they are willing and wanting to just got a note to re-engage. So we want to do that. Next slide. So the first thing is you want to engage organically. So Twitter usually prevents you from advertising until you have some engagement organically first. So if you have a new account, if you haven't been on Twitter before, or there has been disengagement for a long period of time, you can't just jump right in and start advertising. So Twitter kind of considers that the same on the same level as kind of spamming. So when you start your account, your Twitter account, if you don't have one, you definitely want to make a business account a business account. Twitter is not like Facebook. It's more like Instagram, where there's not like, oh, here's your personal profile, and then you can, from that personal profile, swinging to a business profile. It's business profile, business profile, business profile. So whatever is on that particular profile that has your business name on it, that is how you are going to communicate as a business all the time, as your brand. So think about that as you're as you are tweeting. When you're tweeting as a brand, it's interesting because one of the products that's available via Twitter is promoted tweets. And then there's also promoted account. And with the promoted account, as you are tweeting organically, you put money into the budget. I believe it's like $99 per month. And it actually says your first 10 tweets of the day are the tweets that get promoted. So then you really, really, really have to think about how you're tweeting your brand out. Because if you're utilizing the promoted brand or the promoted account, whatever you're tweeting is what you are going to be putting out there to your target audience. So you pick your target audience, you do your tweets, and then you have to remember that you want to have your landing page in those organic tweets. Oftentimes, not every single tweet has a landing page or a URL of some sort. So you really want to think about what those first 10 are going to be. And it may just be awareness. It may just be a quote. It may just be, the thought of the day, and you're putting that out there. And you're kind of giving a picture of the brand. But at some point, you're going to want to lead them somewhere, right? It's not just going to be awareness, awareness, awareness. It's actually going to be sale. And there's going to be some advocacy in there as well, because you want people retweeting. So that's something to think about. So I wanted to give you an idea of what the target audience tool actually does. And I'm not going to go onto Twitter. I'll actually do that a little later. I'll do a walkthrough video, and I'm going to put that into the premium section that we're building and that I've been talking about. So these are all of the options that you have. So you want to add your keywords, right? Works the same as kind of like a Google ad, or it works the same as Facebook, where you are putting particular keywords in. But there's other things that you can do as well. So you can add followers. So remember how we talked about influencers. And you can add the influencers as one of your keywords and grab those followers as well. Any interests? So if you're interested in yoga, if you're interested in music, if you're interested in baseball, or if your potential customers are interested. Tailored audiences, so basically that means pulling in from your databases that you already have accumulated, the contacts that you've already accumulated. TV targeting, so that's something that I was talking about previously. So if, say, you have an online store that has a Scottish related products or products from Scotland, who do you want to target? Well, you want to target people who are watching Outlander because they are very curious and very much want to see Scottish related products that may, have an affinity with the show Outlander, or, just any myriad of, jewelry that is on a particular store, a particular TV show. So TV targeting may be something that you want to consider as well. So that's kind of really thinking a little bit outside the box. Behaviors. How do people behave? Are they runners? Are they are they in the stock market? Are they do they play sports? Do they knit? Things like that. So what are the behaviors? And then event targeting as well. So targeting around very big conferences, and this is really huge for kind of like B2B as well, because if you're thinking about like these larger business conferences or events, you really want to grab those handles and those type of events and think about that as well. So it's just really interesting that there's all of these different methods that can be used. That's not just keywords, it's not just tailored audiences, which is often what you see on Facebook or what you see on Google or YouTube, that there's interest, that there's followers, that there's TV, there's behavior, and there's events. So you really kind of have to tool around or have somebody do it for you. That's been in there on Twitter quite a bit, and especially in the audience. You can really go down a rabbit hole. And I realize that a lot of times people don't have time to go searching for these things, and thinking about hashtags as well. So hashtags are very big in Twitter, and I know that other platforms now use hashtags, but Twitter was really the first to utilize a hashtag. So think about that. So what does a successful Twitter ad look like? There's a bit of a formula there. So tweets with the highest click-through rates, which thus give your brand the opportunity to convert social media traffic into leads, generally include the following elements. And this is probably something that you already know, right? If there are pictures or images attached or video, that is really the way that you want to go. Oftentimes, tweets are just, 120 characters, 180 characters, and then a couple of hashtags. But if you really, really want to stand out, if you look at a Twitter feed, think about what really stands out in a Twitter feed. And what really stands out in a Twitter feed are images and or videos. 1 or 2 hashtags of trending or popular industry topics. So this is another thing that we talk about all the time, is how to utilize hashtags, and I could probably do like a whole 30 minutes just on that. But if you go to hashtag sites or hashtag trending sites and think about and take a look at what's trending in your particular industry, and there's always trends. In the health field, there are trends. In the insurance field, there are trends. In the architectural field, there are trends. There are things that people are talking about. There are conferences that people are talking about. There are news trends that people are talking about, and you want to see what those hashtags are. The resource that I got this from does say 1 to 2 hashtags, and I am not as committed to just utilizing 1 or 2 hashtags. You don't want to go overboard with your hashtags because that's really going to mess up your message. You want to have a nice strong message. You want to have a nice strong image. But the hashtags, I usually like to use kind of like 3 or 4 hashtags myself. Because people click on hashtags to kind of look at the news in that particular trend or in that particular topic. So you want to look at it from that perspective. And then a link to a valuable free resource. And that means that that can be you. So oftentimes, and I know I just said earlier in the program that you want to have a strong landing page URL. You want to have it, I'm going to skip down to the last point, a link near the beginning of the tweet to catch the user's attention. But sometimes utilizing a resource, making sure that you're bringing it to your site as well. So again, if you're downloading, you say download this white paper or take this quiz or do this particular thing. But that link to the valuable free resource, that's what's really going to start the conversation when you're talking specifically about lead generation. So lead generation is not the hard sell. It's not the, the quick pickup type of thing. The lead generation is actually how are you going to start the conversation on Twitter? And that conversation may not continue directly on the website. The other thing too is it may take quite a bit before you get to the final sale, right? So lead generation sometimes takes weeks, sometimes takes months, sometimes takes a year. So this is capturing all the data, starting the relationship, and really starting to have a conversation on Twitter. And that conversation can continue on Twitter for a period of time as well. So when you have Twitter advertising, think about how that is going to generate more of a conversation, even on just Twitter for now. That's fine. That's one way to generate and to nurture those leads. And Twitter is very, very, very conversational. From an organic perspective and a non-business perspective, a lot of times people think that the conversations are not as fulfilling and could be, actually kind of spammy or toxic or that sort of thing. But really, you can really hone in on good Twitter conversations, and you can utilize third-party tools in order to do that. So something like a Hootsuite or something like a Sprout Social or other third-party platforms to really just hone in on very specific business conversations. From what I remember, I don't use Hootsuite anymore, but when I did use Hootsuite, that was definitely one of the things that I found really engaging, and Sprout Social does the same thing as well. There's other kind of conversation or listening tools that you can utilize in order to really, again, hone in on the Twitter conversation and have that be your lead generation platform. I'm thinking about it from that perspective. So again, this is all, I just want to go back to the fact that this is all just, formulas, and not every formula is the one that is going to work for you, and not every platform is the one that is going to work. And sometimes it's a series of platforms. So I always go back to, making sure that you look at your analytics and look at what is really working for you. And you may find that Twitter plus Facebook or plus a Google ad or plus email is the thing that's really looking for you. But this is just kind of giving you an idea and kind of like what a process could look like with Twitter advertising and how it can become part of your lead generation. So the last thing is to have a landing page with a strong call to action. So your ads can only be as successful as the call to action. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a completely hard sell, like buy this thing. It could be, let's have a conversation, take this quiz, talk to me about this. Do you want to, what's the topic that you want to talk about? So all of these things are things to really think about, or just putting a thought out there and having people engage with you. So Twitter is really, it's really about that kind of conversational engagement. Anybody can jump in and out of the conversation. It moves super, super quickly. That's definitely one of the things that people kind of get a little overwhelmed with is how quickly Twitter moves. And when you're saying, people will ask me, how many times should I tweet a day? It's not the same thing as Facebook, where you can put one or two Facebook posts out a day, or 2 or 3 Instagram posts a day, and they can kind of sit there, and then somebody will get back to it later, and then, oh my goodness, look, I just saw this on Facebook and I'm going to engage with it now. This moves very, very fast. And the lifespan of a tweet is about 20 minutes. 20 minutes, that's it. And then it's gone and you're on to the next thing. So if you don't have the time to be tweeting organically, or if it's, not in your schedule to set up a bunch of tweets and then watch them, kind of think about when you want to do that. And oftentimes, tweeting can be based around events. So I know for a long period of time, and how I met many of the people that I met, I'm going to tell a little story now. And Rebecca, if you're still here, I know you know this as well. There was something called a break tweet. So the hashtag, I believe, was hashtag break tweet. So please correct me if I am wrong about this. And there was a formula to this, right? If you think about it, there really was a formula and a process to how this worked. So we would be online. We would all be talking to each other online, and we were all entrepreneurs. We were all business owners, or we were all in a field where we really needed to know what was going on from the perspective of business, from the perspective of networking. So we had the hashtag break tweet, and it was people all over Connecticut. So it wasn't just New Haven, and it wasn't just Hartford, and it wasn't just Chester, and it wasn't just Stonington. I'm trying to think of the other places that I've met people on Twitter, and literally we met people on Twitter. We had conversations on Twitter. We talked about important business topics, or important to us business topics, whether it be about marketing, or whether it be about bookkeeping, or whether it be about the legal aspects of business. But then we would meet in person at a set location. I think it was once a month. And we would all have breakfast together. And there would be, anywhere between 6 to 20 of us at any given time, depending on the location. So we would get together in a physical location and communicate and network there. And then we would go back to whatever our location was and still continue that conversation. But the way that we found each other, or the way that we signaled we were ready for a conversation, was utilizing the hashtag break tweet. So that's just an example of an organic conversation that pretty much lasted for several years, and I actually did see it come up again just recently. I kind of fell out of that, but it did come up just recently. So people with some commonality. So in this case, and yeah, that's how we met. See, I knew. I'm putting this up. This is Rebecca. We had the break tweet, and that's how I met Joe Cascio, and I'm trying to think of the other people that we met because I'm so bad and I have not stayed in touch with everybody. Obviously, Rebecca Mead and I had stayed in touch, but Joe is another person. I believe Judy Otten was another person. And these are all people who are business people, and that, obviously I still value. I remember these are strong business connections that I have. And, in some of them I still do, or I will still check in with people. So that just goes to show there were other, there's a small contingent that meet up regularly in West Hartford for breakfast. Yeah. And because I'm lazy, I don't go up there. We should do like a Zoom with them. But that really goes to show, and I know I kind of went off of the advertising thing, but like really how the organic piece really works together. So, and oftentimes what I talk about is kind of like from a networking and a business perspective and a lead generation and a relationship or communication perspective is I used to really talk about kind of like that online in person, right? That's very, very important. You meet somebody in person and then you connect with them again online. And then, oh, wow, okay, yeah, see, that was like pretty amazing. And then, or like however you meet with them, right? So if you meet with them in person and it's like, hey, let's continue the conversation online. Or if you're online and then you're like, hey, how can we all meet up? How can we all kind of stick together as a group? And then if you put the advertising component from a business perspective into this, right? And then just really have that one strong, concise message. It's like, okay, you know what? May not be ready to do this, but this is what I'm thinking of doing. This is what I am as a brand. This is what we do. And here's the advertising, and here's where you can learn more about it. And so the cycle is really, advertising, organic, and then at some point possibly in person as well. So I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. So this is me. I didn't even introduce myself in the beginning. I just assume that everybody knows who I am. So I am Julia Gooch. I'm founder and partner of Agents of Branding. There is my website right there. It's www.agentsofbranding.com. I just put my phone number out there. Woohoo! I do digital media sync every Tuesday morning at 8:30, sometimes 9, depending on who my guests are. So every Tuesday morning from 8:30 to about 9:30. The next couple of weeks, I am going to have guests, and I'll be putting that information up on the Known Co-working Facebook page and the Known Live event, and also on the nhbknown.com website. I'm also going to be talking more about the premium content that is going to be coming up as well. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for 10 years. I have lots and lots of material. I could go on and on and on, so I'm going to do that. We're going to be building a really nice, robust library in the nhbknown.com website in the digital media sync area. So we're going to be talking about that soon as well. Next week, I am going to have a guest, and she is going to be talking about Zapier. She's going to be talking about zapping. So that's going to be, Letitia's going to be talking about that. I'm going to be bringing her on. And then the week after, I'm going to be putting Barb Nangle into the guest chair. Usually she is in the host chair and she is interviewing for people for Known Live. So I'm going to be switching things up a little bit because she had talked about some apps that have been helping her. And I want to learn about how other people are utilizing apps. I know that the apps that I use, and there's a lot of online apps out there. So I'm thinking, some of them are for business, some of them are for personal development and use as well. So if you also could drop in, anybody can drop in and talk about their apps and the Digital Media Sync group. I'm also looking to have more guests and more topic as well. It is lonely to do this all by myself every single week. And if you go to the nhbknown.com website and you go to the Digital Media Sync tab, you will see we have about 15 to 20 digital media sync programs that we have done already, and some of them are 3-part series, and I have a few where I have had guests with just some really, really good information. So I definitely want to share that with you. And I want to have other people share their experiences as well and what works for them. Is there any particular advertising formula that they use? We can talk about branding and that sort of thing. So that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. So just go ahead and drop me a line with that as well. All right, so I am going to close things out for now. We will have this particular utilizing Twitter advertising for lead generation. We will have that on the NHB Known website. And I'm just trying to get the information really quickly about the next Known Live. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah. So the next Known Live is tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm really excited for this too because I'm on a couple of boards and I want to make sure that I have all the information that I need. We've been communicating with Gina Bingham from the New Haven Free Public Library in New Haven. And we are going to be looking at resources for nonprofits at I2Squared. So Gina's going to come tomorrow at 10 a.m. She's going to be talking to Barb Nangle about those resources. So anybody who is working with nonprofits, this is a really great program. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you. Yay. I'm so happy when Rebecca's on. And Zep. I'm also happy when Zep is on as well. And Rick. And Suzanne. And if you have any questions, even though this live is shutting out, I still take a look and make sure that I see if there's any questions or comments on Facebook, and also if there's any questions or comments on YouTube or LinkedIn as well. All right, so I will see you next week. I'll be posting up what the next few weeks topics are going to be, and I have special guests, so I'm super excited about having those special guests, and I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.